Hey folks, Thomas here. Welcome back to Mears Lab. In today's episode, we're going to have a look at the audio gate in Davinci Resolve video editing software and how it can be used to help clean up our audio by removing unwanted background noise. Let's get started by looking at how the software is set up at the moment. So I basically just started a new project, and then I went over to the Fairlight tab here, and then I just routed my microphone into the input of the audio channel here. And at the moment, we're just hearing the clean, unedited, unprocessed sound of the microphone. And by the way, while we're at it, the mic that I'm using in today's video is a Rode K2 condenser microphone, and it is plugged into my Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 Mark III audio interface. And so that is how I'm getting the audio into the Davinci Resolve video editing software. And just to show you how I did that, so you just go over here to the input, and then you just select the input on your audio interface. They show up here. You have to go into the settings and do some stuff in there, like adjust the audio driver and stuff like that as well too. But that's beyond the scope of today's video. But anyways, that's how I did that there. I'm just gonna get out of there. This is going to be really cool because as I'm making changes to the buttons and knobs and things in the software, you'll actually be able to hear it in real time. For example, if I were to adjust the volume and turn it down a little bit here or turn it up like that, you can actually hear it in real time, and I think that's going to be really helpful in demonstrating what we're talking about here. So without further ado, let's get right into it here. So we double clicked over there, and that brought up the dynamics module here, and we're going to focus in on the lower left corner here. That's where the gate is located. And then we're also going to have a look at this stuff up here, and we're pretty much just going to ignore this section down here where the compressor and the limiter are located. And by the way, on that topic, if you enjoy this video, then please let me know in the comments section, and you can always hit the like button and subscribe to the Mears Lab channel for more as well too. If you'd like to see a video about the compressor or the limiter or anything else in the software, please let me know. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's start by looking at turning it on here by hitting that button over there. And then when you first open up the software, it actually has the expander turned on, and we're not going to get into that right now. We're just going to go over here and click on the gate. And the way the controls are set up right now, you can instantly hear the effect of the gate, and the audio is probably sounding kind of choppy right now. So I'm going to just quickly fix that by adjusting the threshold control and just bringing it all the way down so that it doesn't really affect the sound right now. But you know what? That's a great segue into, well, what does the threshold control do? And it's probably the most important control on the gate. This is like the heart and soul of how it works. There is an audio detection sort of algorithm within a gate, okay? And it can detect how loud the audio is coming into the gate. And that's really important for it to know because all these other controls work off of that threshold control. So we want to make sure that we get that dialed in just right. This is the unaffected, unprocessed audio input volume right here, and you can see it's sort of hovering around, I don't know, -20 to -15 at the peaks, maybe like -25 or so. And if I turn the gain up on my audio interface, you'll see that this goes up correspondingly with it. And if I were to lower the gain on my interface, it goes down with it too. Cool, eh? Anyways, let's keep moving on here. Okay, so I've got that gain set where I like it on there, which is about 1 o'clock. And we've got a good level coming in here where it's sort of hanging out right here. And I like it mostly to be in the yellow section, or certainly mostly in the yellow section, and not really too much in the red section, you know. I like it to be right around the middle here. So that's a good spot to give us a lot of audio volume and dynamic range to work with, okay? So, and what I mean by that is the most quiet notes, we're easily recording those with lots of room to spare. And the very loud notes, we're easily recording those as well too with lots of room to spare. That's what I mean by dynamic range, meaning like the difference between the quietest and the loudest notes is right around here where I want it to be. So if I was meaning like it had a narrow dynamic range, it would be not a big difference between the quiet and loud notes. But if it had a wide dynamic range, there would be a big difference between the very quiet notes and the really loud ones, like that, you know? Okay, anyways, let's keep going here. So it's important to know that because that's exactly how the threshold control works. And you can see as I change it here, and you can see this blue line, this blue vertical line, that coincides with this control here. And you can see the number here, minus 46, lines up with this scale here, right? So minus 46 would be right there. And the way that this works is you can see that this is sort of visually displaying what the volume of my voice is right now. And you can see it's sort of hovering around this minus 20 sort of an area. And that's kind of giving us a little bit of an idea of what our dynamic range is right there too. Really cool. That's handy whenever you want to dial in your compressor and limiter and stuff too. But anyways, okay, back to the gate. What we want to do is we want to set this threshold control just below where we're normally talking. So we kind of want to set it to be right around there because it's going to start to kind of kick on right whenever we're talking, but then it's going to cut out all the other noise that's below our voice. Now, I know that this sounds kind of choppy right now, but trust me, we'll fix it up, okay? And so actually, I'm just going to change that control right there just to make it a little bit more listenable right now so it's not so distracting, okay? Anyhow, but you see, this is the control that, remember, that tells our gate when to start turning off the audio, because that's what the gate does. Once it detects the audio at a certain point, it lets it through. But if the audio isn't at a certain volume, then it doesn't let any audio through at all. Okay, so basically any audio that's below this blue line here or quieter than minus 40 dB, it's not going to let it through. But anything above it, it's all good to go, okay? And all these other controls help with that. And we'll get into that a little bit further in the video. Okay, so back to the threshold. So another cool way to look at this, you can set this in conjunction with this range control. And this is really helpful to maximize the amount of audio that passes through and really only cut out the background noise. And in my opinion, that's the sort of most ideal way to use a gate, is really to just cut out only the background stuff that you don't want and leave all the other stuff in there. And generally err on the side of leaving stuff in rather than getting rid of it, I would tend to think, really, most of the time. Let's move over to the range control here, and this is how it works, okay? So a gate, whenever audio is below its threshold, either turn the audio all the way off like this. See how the audio is completely gone? It's like 60 dB in the difference. It lowers the volume of the audio below the threshold by 60 decibels right here. I can tell it exactly how much I want it to lower the volume of the background noise by. I can have it lower by like 3 decibels or 6 decibels, or I can just pick anything I want or put it right in the middle. But honestly, even lowering the background noise by something like 6 decibels makes a pretty big difference. And it doesn't make an enormous difference in the audio quality, really, especially once you get the threshold in just the right way set. So I'm going to show you how to get this ideally set now. Okay, so here, first turn the range all the way up so that it has maximum effect. It just turns all the audio all the way up. And then what you want to do is you want to get your threshold, turn it all the way down. And you can hear just a little bit of the background noise sort of squeaking through right now if you listen. You can sort of hear the traffic on the road. So I'm going to turn this threshold control up just until I can't hear any of that background noise squeak through at all now. Right around there. And I can see the background noise in the screen here too. Now it's important to keep this threshold set as low as we can, because if I have it set too high, then it won't pick up the quiet parts that I say. It'll get confused between the quiet parts and the background noise. But that's always the crux of using a gate, is sometimes the background noise is louder than your voice, the thing you actually want to record. And that's why it's important to try and keep your microphones as close to your sources as possible to minimize background noise. Right now, I think that the threshold's actually set a little bit too high because it sounds a little choppy to me. We can fix it up more with these other controls, and we will, but we want to get this dialed in perfectly just right away. So let's just lower it a little bit more to say like -40, and then that sounds like pretty darn good to me. And maybe we'll go to -41 just because I like working in numbers of 3. And there we go. So that's going to hopefully cut out most of the background noise. Pretty much, maybe a teensy little bit sneaks through every once in a while, but that's okay. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, so what I can do now is let's turn that range control all the way down. Now, if this is all the way down, it's not going to have any effect at all. We have to have the range turned up to actually lower the audio that's below the threshold. So I'm gonna turn this up until it starts to sound distracting to me, which is right about, I don't know, maybe right about there. And then I'm gonna turn it back a little bit from there, because then it's hopefully not quite so distracting, but it's kind of having maximum effect, Okay, so now I know it doesn't sound perfect yet, but we're gonna hopefully get there pretty soon. And we can get there a little faster by just skipping right over this ratio control because it doesn't have any effect when we have the gate turned on. Okay, cool. So that just means we can move over here to the attack. And this is great because this is how fast the gate lets audio through once the audio hits the threshold. Okay, so to have the most audio squeak through, we want to have the gate set or the attack set as fast as possible. Now, the only reason you wouldn't want to have the attack set as fast as possible is sometimes it can cause the gate to sort of misfire on teensy tiny little bits of audio that squeak through the threshold, and that can sound distracting too. And sometimes it can just make the start of words and things like that sound a little funky as well too. So if you increase the attack a little bit, it sort of smooths out the start of words. But if you have it too much, it sort of like makes the start of every single word sound all like faded in and everything, and that's no good either. So, I find that basically I start with it all the way down, and then I just sort of turn it up a little bit until it's sort of smoothing out the start of all the words. Let's skip this hold control here for a second, and let's jump over here to the release control. Here's how the release control works. What we're going to want to do here is start with it down low, because that's going to make it sound as choppy as possible, and it's really easy to hear the effect of it, okay? So what we want to do is we want to turn up the release, because that's going to change how long the gate holds on to the audio for before it sort of lets it go into basically the below threshold, like no audio world. The release control is how long it takes for the audio to turn off once it goes back below the threshold again. And it's like a smooth drop off. It's like a slope. In Davinci Resolve, you can go super fast, which is like basically abruptly cutting off the audio, which doesn't sound very good. It's really choppy, Generally, to make things sound smoother, you want to turn this control up like that, okay? But the thing is, you don't want to turn it up too much, because then the audio will really, really drift on and on and on for a long time, like here, 4 seconds before it turns off again, and it'll let too much background noise through. It does sound really nice and smooth though. So here's how I like to set the release control. Basically, I set it all the way up like that, and then I start turning it down like this sort of a thing until it starts to sound sort of choppy like that. And then I turn it up a little bit more like that to make it sound a bit smoother. And then I think that we're in a pretty good zone. Last but not least here, let's have a look at this hold control, because it's very similar to the release control, but you'll notice that it's conveniently located in between the attack and the release, and that's because it happens in between the attack and the release of the audio that passes through the gate. Here's how it works. Okay, so audio is coming into a gate, it reaches the threshold volume, the gate turns on, lets the audio through, okay? It has this tiny little bit of delay here from the attack, which, by the way, is also a slope, just like the release control. That's what makes it sound nice and sort of rounded and smooth once the audio turns on. And all this is happening really, really fast as well, too, by the way. If we take this control and increase it a little bit more, remember, it increases the sort of amount of delay time, the delay between the audio turning on or off and then on, once the audio passes the threshold. Once the audio has turned on and then it goes below the threshold on the gate, then the hold activates, and you can add as much as 4 seconds here. And that means that after the audio goes below the threshold, it'll wait 4 seconds, and then it'll go into the release state, which will add another 475 milliseconds in this example, which is like half a second. So here we go. It's basically just almost immediately turning on with 1 millisecond here of delay at the start here for the attack. It's going to hold on for 4 seconds, and then it'll have a tiny little bit of release here. Okay, so here's how you use the hold control. In the same way as the release, you basically start with it all the way up, and then you're going to turn it down until you can really hear the audio start to sort of cut out again like that. And then you just turn it up a little bit more, and there you go. You should have a pretty workable sound. And here is how you can go back and get it even more finely tuned in and dialed in here, is you can go right back to the start and then make a second pass like this, okay? So we're going to take our threshold and we're going to go below where the audio is, the background noise, and bring it in again. And now let's bring the threshold up until just the background noise goes away. Okay, right about there I think sounds good. Okay, and our range control, now it's at it's at 18.6. So that's basically the difference between the volume of the audio turning that we can hear and the audio and the background noise. Right now it's lowering it by 18.6 decibels. So what I could do is, I think that it's sort of distracting and noticeable right now, so I'm going to lower the range so that it's not quite as noticeable. And once again we go back to 0, and then you can't really hear anything at all whatsoever. So I'm going to go to like something like 6, because that's not a humongous difference, but it's going to lower the background noise to a point where we can actually hear a difference. So here, let's just turn it off. Pretty big difference, eh? It's only lowering the background noise by 6 decibels, but I like that. Cool. And I can even go more. I could go up to 12. I had to set the threshold a little bit higher. It was still triggering on some of the, I don't know, the wind noises or something on the window. Isn't that neat how that works? Okay, and if I wanted to get that sounding even a little bit better, I could actually set the attack here a little bit faster, so it turns on even a little bit faster. Okay, and let's just, let's just maybe back that off just a little bit just to round off the front of the notes. Okay, and there you have it, folks. That's basically how the gate works in Davinci Resolve. And by the way, I mean, this would kind of work for pretty much any gate that's out there in pretty much any software. It's not specific to Davinci Resolve. Most gates have these controls, or some that are very, very similar to them, or a condensed set of these controls, whether it's software or hardware. And also, the way that these controls work is similar to how the controls work on a compressor or a limiter and a lot of other audio processors as well, too. I really hope that the information that we discussed in today's video is helpful for you in your own mixes. I want to thank you all for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.